So, my sister and I were just going through some stuff, like underlying things that, you can't really talk about to other people. And I made her draw out some things, and she drew this beautiful picture. And what I did is I do what I do, and I just kind of went into it and pointed out what I would, what stuck out to me. I don't know, because how I do my nerdy thing and just do stuff. Anyways, and this is my drawing of, this is my redo of hers, and instead of the nonsense that they were saying, I just put in some cute little words, but regardless, so I went in and I told her to write out, the hair color, this, that, and the other thing, and I made her do that, but as she was writing blonde, it didn't come out as blonde, and I kind of went with that, and that G, it's supposed to be blonde hair, but it didn't work out, so I just kind of elaborated and went with whatever. And then with this one, I noticed that she had unconsciously or subconsciously wrote ET. Kind of looks like a peace symbol or whatever, so I just put that out there. And then there's a W there, but 60 stuck out to me regardless. I don't know, just a few things. And I was like, okay, so let's go on with that. And I was telling her about my experience and my shit or whatever, but I'll just show you this. So we go and we look into Betty Andreasen as we're watching a video and whatever. This is what comes up. What the fuck? Okay,
and then Anderson was working in her kitchen while her mother, father, and 7 children were in the living room. All of a sudden, the lights started to flicker on and off. Then a reddish light began to shine through the kitchen window. Betty ran to check on the kids to make sure they were okay, while the father ran to the kitchen to see what the heck this oddish red light was. Betty's father could not believe what he was looking at. He saw 5 very odd-looking creatures. These creatures were doing a hopping-like motion towards Betty's house, very similar to how we would move in zero gravity. The father was scared to death. Once these creatures reached the house, they were able to walk right through the wooden door as if it wasn't even there. While in the house, these beings began to float, and the father noticed that these beings had a logo of a bird on their sleeves, which struck me as very odd. These alien creatures put the entire family in a state of suspended animation and began to communicate with Betty telepathically. Now, Betty was not able to move or talk, but she was very scared for her family as she was watching them. The aliens sensed her concern and showed her that her family was okay by moving them in and out of their suspended animated state. Now, Betty started to feel very calm, and she sensed that these alien beings were friendly. Betty was then taken to their craft. The craft was small and looked exactly like your typical saucer-shaped UFO. Betty says that this smaller craft flew to the bigger mother craft. Once Betty was inside the mother craft, they took her to what she can only describe as some sort of operating room. These alien creatures did all sorts of tests on Betty, and she was returned home safely later that evening. As Betty was being escorted back into her house, she noticed that her family was still in suspended animation. The next morning, Betty and her family didn't remember a thing, but slowly over time, they started to remember. Betty says that these alien creatures put some sort of memory block on her and her family, and slowly over time, they were able to remember everything. 8 years after this encounter, Betty answered an ad from a Dr. J. Allen Hynek who was trying to find and help alien abductees.
Like,
Betty's
what the fuck?
Case is so bizarre and rare that they discarded her letter. They thought that she was trying to make fun of what they were doing, because her story was just that crazy. But Betty wasn't joking. She wanted answers, and she kept pursuing. Eventually, Dr. Hynek realized that this woman was serious, and he decided to investigate. The first thing the UFO researcher team did was give her a lie detector test. Now, to their surprise, Betty passed with flying colors. There was no more doubt. They knew Betty was 100% convinced that what happened to her was real, at least in her mind. During Betty's 12-month investigation, she took 2 lie detector tests and 14 sessions of regressive hypnosis therapy. Now, due to how rare the...
Okay, so that just fucking doesn't just happen. We're not done going and connecting the dots. Funny, polka dots. But as you can tell, this is all fucking interconnected somehow, and we haven't fucking ever talked about anything like this our entire lives. Wow.